How to Keep Your Cool by Seneca. D era. In Latin, that means how to keep it cool. Introduction. Your anger is a kind of madness because you set a high price on worthless things. Seneca the Younger wrote those words in the mid-1st century AD as the Roman Principated, the system of one-man rule and inaugurated by Augustus Caesar, reached its 4th generation. Seneca ostensibly addressed that thought to his elder brother, Novatus, but really intended it for all his Roman readers. And it continues to speak powerfully today, an age that still struggles more than many previous ones to deal with insanities wrought by anger. To better grasp what Seneca means when he defines anger as misvaluation, try the following exercise. Recall the last minor incident that sent you into a rage. Perhaps a reckless driver cut you off and made you slam the brakes, or someone cut in line in front of you, or stole a parking spot, or a cab from under your nose. You were injured, or were you? Were you notably worse off a day or two later than before the incident occurred? Did it really matter? Did that someone disrespect you in a way that global climate changes matter, or the threat of nuclear war, or the fact that stars are collapsing into black holes in other parts of our galaxy, swallowing up everything around them? The juxtaposition of the quotidian with the immeasurably vast is a favorite stratagem of Seneca, especially on anger. The essay from which this volume is drawn, by shifting our perspective or expanding our mental scale, Seneca challenges our sense of what, if anything, is worth our getting angry. Pride, dignity, self-importance, the sources of our outrage. When we feel injured, ending up seeming hollow, we zoom out and see our lives from the distance. Draw further back and laugh. Seneca's great example of wisdom, Socrates, the most revered sage in Greek world, and Cato, the younger senator of the century preceding Seneca's in the Roman world, are in this essay. Seen getting spat on or knocked about or struck on the head without expressing anger or even, it seems, feeling anyway. An infringement on your car, right of way might not matter, but your reaction does, Seneca believed. In your momentary road rage, in your desire to honk and hurt or kill the other driver, lie grave threats to the sovereignty of reason in your soul, and therefore to your capacity for the right choice and virtuous action. The onset of anger endangers your moral condition more than that of any other emotions, for anger is, in Seneca's eyes, the most intense, destructive, and irresistible of passions. It's like jumping off a cliff. Once rage is allowed to get control, there is no hope of stopping the descent. Our spiritual health demands that we let go of anger, or else it will never let go of us. Seneca knew at first hand the perils of anger. By the time he came to write on anger, or at least the greater part of it, he had witnessed from the close vantage point of the Roman Senate the bloody 4 years' reigns of Caligula. We might give others names than anger to Caligula's melodies, paranoia, say, or sadism, but Seneca, to advance his case, lumps all of that the emperor's cruelties under and the heading of error. Caligula's casts a long shadow over on anger. Seneca often mentions him by name, but also invokes him implicitly when he associates the anger with instruments of torture, with flames and swords, and with civil strife, that the nightmare of Caliga years, it seems, had taught Seneca the high cost of unrestrained wrath, not just to the individual soul, but to the whole Roman state. It was unusual for a philosopher and moral essayist to occupy a seat in the Senate, but Seneca was an unusual man. In youth, he had studied with teachers who embraced Stoicism, a system imported from Greece that counseled mental self-control and adherence to the dictates of divine reason. He chose to follow the Stoic path, but not in any orthodox way. As a mature writer, he drew on many philosophic traditions, or else eschewed theory, although in favor of practical ethics, enhanced by the rhetoric flourish. On anger is a case in point only, a portion of treatise largely confined to the first half is demonstrably rooted in Stoic principles. The second half, from which much of this volume drawn, deals with the problem of anger, more pragmatically, reminding us in its most banal passages to overload our schedules or take on tasks at which we are likely to fail. Seneca, to judge by his self-preservation in his writings, was a reflective and inward-looking man. He describes in one of the passages translated below his Zen-like nightly reviews of his own ethical choices, tranquil meditations conducted in a quiet of his bedroom. Yet we know that Seneca also enjoyed proximity to power and eagerly played the game of Roman politics, sometimes with disastrous results. In his 30s, he entered Roman state, where he gained reputations as an original, compelling speaker, but the eloquence only aroused the envy of the Emperor Caliga, who reportedly wanted him killed, but was himself assassinated before taking action. Under Claudius, Caliga's successor, Seneca became under suspicion and was exiled to Corsica. The charge brought against him, adultery with one of Caliga's sisters, was likely a pretext, quiet possibly on anger, was begun during the period of exile. After 8 years of Corsica and the near extinction of his political career, Seneca was recalled to Rome in AD 49 with most important brief instructing and guiding the 13-year-old Nero, Claudius' adopted son and presumptive heir, with the support of Agrippina, another of Caliga's sisters, and Claudius, new wife. Seneca became more influential more than ever, and also extremely rich. It was at about this time, presumably, that he completed on anger, only on firm clues as to its date, that Novatus, to whom it is addressed, changed his name to Gallio in the late 52 or early 53 AD, so the treatise must have been published before that. Perhaps the works was circulated at Rome. Harold, his author, returned there, and to advise the humanity of the man re-entering in the inner circle of imperial power, much as modern politician might publish a memoir to run for the higher office. Humanity, in a sense of humaniness, is indeed the keynote on anger. To counter the impulse of anger, here defined as the desire to punish, Seneca reminds us how much we humans have in common above all our forgivability. In between monsters like Caliga and saints like Socrates stand the other 99% of the human race, sinners, all yet deserving the clemency, like be kinder to one another. Seneca exhorts in expression final segments of his treatise. We were just wicked people living among wicked people. Only one thing can give us peace, and that's the pact of mutual leniency. This theme of shared fallibility underlied the social contracts recurred often in Seneca's writing, but is nowhere so clearly or so lawfully expressed as here. Seneca brought all of his formidable rhetoric power to bear in on anger, sometimes chilling his readers with the tales of Grotesque's cruelty, others times uplifting them with exhortation towards mercy, and finally leaving them haunted by the specter of death, the grim of absolute that was never far from his thoughts. He deploys his famously seductive prose style, rendered here only with very partial fidelity, to keep us hanging on every word. The passages in the song does not represent every word, but constitute less than 1/3 of anger. The whole may be read in Robert Casper's translation in the University of Chicago volume on anger, mercy, and revenge. Seneca ended his life as a victim of wrath he could not assuage. The Emperor Nero, after more than 15 years under Seneca's hand, became increasingly unstable and paranoid. In the mid-6080s, and imperial era began to rise its head once again. As in the bad old days of Caliga, Seneca was linked to assassination plot by means of contrived evidence and forced to commit suicide in AD 65. The complexities of Seneca's life and the sheer volumes of his writings had made him harder to embrace today than two great Stoics who followed him, Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. Nevertheless, his thoughts remains for some a source of inspiration and guide towards moral awareness. In the mid-20th century, psychologist Albert Ellis drew on Seneca's and other Stoics in formulating his own rational emotive behavior school of therapy. And in the later decades, Michael Foucault used Seneca's practice of daily introspection as a model for what he termed care of the self. Under that model, ancient Stoicism has a solitary role to play in the modern world as we seek remedies at night in our quiet bedrooms for our many ills of the soul. The present volume honors the idea that Seneca was not writing only for elite Romans of the New Age era, but for all people at all times. In an age when anger thrives, he has much to teach us. So, based on what the introduction was saying, was Seneca was a qualified candidate to teach us how to be stoic, how to keep our cool, how to not phase up when it comes to anger when someone rubs us off the wrong way. So, in conclusion, he was a Stoic philosopher that preaches how to have self-control. And that's what we're going to learn in the next passage.